Hello, and welcome to the Astro Energy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton.
Hi, and welcome to the October 21st, 2021 edition of the Astro Energy Astrology Show podcast with me, your astrologer in Orlando, Shelley Overton. I want to welcome you, and we're going to go over what the week's astrology is. This week, I'm going to do a now chart based on the natural layout of a chart, and the natural layout is Aries, followed by Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra. And then the upper half is Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. So it looks like the original chart as it's laid out. And that way we kind of know where everything is really affecting us. It lays out the different signs and the different meanings for each sign as it naturally is. I think that is a better way to really approach it as we do the reading. If we lay it out as a natural chart, each of the areas that the different signs represent are a little easier to understand in a general reading like we have, with the podcast. So what I actually would like to do first, I realized I don't know if we're going to necessarily touch on any news today, but I do want to give you more of a basic understanding of reading a chart, because I find that discussing a chart when you're learning and you don't really know what a chart represents in the basic sense, it can be a little bit difficult to pick up or understand. I'm going to go over how a chart's laid out. So a chart is the wheel, and the wheel represents the sky around the earth. And so if you think of the earth as the center part of the wheel, then the sky around it is 360 degrees in a circle, divided into 12 sections. For our purposes, we are using an exact division, meaning 30 degrees. Everything is exactly 30 degrees. So there are charts that will decrease and increase the size of the houses. That's not what we're dealing with now, because we're just really understanding a basic chart. So the basic chart has 12 houses. We call each section around the chart also the sections of sky around the earth, divisions. Each of those divisions is a house, and the house represents a segment of sky that is assigned to one of the zodiac signs. In Western astrology, these different divisions is a cardinal section, a cardinal initiating sign. So Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. And those help define us because they are the beginning signs of the seasons. In Western astrology, the chart is laid out according to the seasons, not in Indian or Vedic astrology, which is where the actual zodiac is at the moment. It's a current chart to the sky. It's a literal photograph of the sky. In Western astrology, we take the dates of the zodiac assigned to the actual seasons. When we assign them to the seasons, it basically sets up a template of where all the other signs fall. And it is a way of defining the chart that gives us a collective mindset around the zodiac. So when the change occurs, that is when we change signs, and then we have the collective consciousness around that particular part of the sky. And so when planets transit there, based on this system, which I will let you know, there are many, many systems in astrology. They divide the planets and their transits according to that particular system. And so it really is a matter of deciding which one most represents your point of view. I can tell you, having done multiple ways of assigning the systems to a chart, you can find the information in many ways, including a progression, including a sunrise chart, including Indian or Vedic astrology, and sidereal. It's really just different ways of assigning that particular type of astrology, as is porphyry or tropical. Let's see, tropical, natural, porphyry. I'm just going over some of them. Vedic, equal, Morinus, Krasinski. These are just a few of what I have. Meridian, Campanus, Coke. There's so many different ways of dividing the chart or the zodiac. Really, when you're starting out, you can, like I said, I'm doing a natural chart. That is a really good place to start because it assigns the first sign of the zodiac, Aries, and they're all in alignment around the chart. So it helps you understand what the parts of a chart are. So going around the chart, we have Aries representing the self, the ego, and the drive to come into this world because it rules the first house. That is always going to be the basic ruler of the zodiac when you're doing a chart. So as we do a date of birth and a time of birth, the chart rotates to that moment in time and that place in time, which shifts what planets are on the first house, but it still gives the basic inner energy and iteration of that particular house. So the first house is ego, sense of self, and drive. The second house is the value we assign to being here on earth, to our personality, our personhood, to the things that we have in a material sense in our world, because it is an earth energy. The first house is a fire energy. It's the drive to be born. It is the fire, the projection of energy that gets us here. The second house is the house where we realize we are in the physical realm. We are in a body and we have value. We have physical value. That translates in Taurus to the material world, to things that we have that represent our day-to-day world. The third house is how we communicate our ideas and the expression of our thoughts and how that translates in an interpersonal way between two people or a small group of people. So that is the third house, the Gemini house. Second house is Taurus. Third house is Gemini, and the fourth house is Cancer, representing the moon. And so the third house is how we see our family, what group of people we choose to come in a very interpersonal way. The whole lower half, the first six houses are all interpersonal, meaning the faster moving planets represent these houses, and they are the ones that we look to for where we interact with people in the ways assigned to these houses. Cancer is the moon. It is family life. It is interaction with our family, and the figurehead of the home life is the mother. And so how we represent security associated with mother, associated with nurturing, including domestic and identity, things that represent traditional views of mothering. So food, housekeeping, decorating, making clothes, this is really old traditional moon stuff. Anyway, we move on to the fifth house, which is the Leo house, and that is children, creativity, leadership, and romance. So any of those ideas are always assigned over the fifth house when we talk about the fifth house. The sixth house is medical endeavors, doctors. It is health. It is medicine. It is the military, people going into the military. It is the work environment, the workplace, and places of service. We go to the top half of the chart, which is all the outer planets representation and how we interact on a global level, on a community level. So Libra, while it is community, it does kind of particularly assign to one-on-one partnerships, but it is how we represent ourselves as a couple in the collective. And then we go to the next house, which is the Scorpio segment of the sky, representing the energy of Pluto, but Pluto as it is assigned to Scorpio. And so the two, and in every house, the ruling planet of the sign is also closely linked to that house. So in the eighth house, we have Pluto, representation. And Pluto is the ability to commit to the relationship. It is an emotional energy because it's representing water. So we go deep into the emotional energy of water. We are in our psyche. We are in the association of research, the association of law and government, and how we now commit to a rulership of the collective energy. So it can represent a certain amount of the authority over the governance, but I think that somewhat defaults to the 10th house and not so much the 8th house. The 8th house is the machinations and the movement and interactions that people have in a committed, passionate role. And then how we psychologically integrate what we think of the parts of the machine, the parts of the system. The 9th house is a fire energy and how we move amongst our constituents and interact with people of other cultures and people of other places. It also represents being of foreign culture and being of another place. It is how we learn and grow and spiritually seek out information. It is also the energy, again, like I said last week, the energy of fire is associated with competition. And so that can come into play as well. Spirituality is assigned to that house as well, and spiritual seeking. So we've got moving about, taking action, the fiery energies, and then seeking out wisdom, seeking out higher understanding, knowledge, and growth, and then understanding foreign cultures. We move to the 10th house, which is the Saturn house and the structure, the system, the governance of the collective. It is also the fame energy coming in where we gain attention from the collective. It can also mean that the planets that transit this house bring an energy of lasting quality to it because it is a rootedness. It's an earth energy we root in the 10th house. The 11th house is the Aquarius house. Uranus rules that sign. And this is where we really recognize through intellect that we are part of the collective. And a lot of that information is channeled. It comes from higher spiritual understanding and a collective mindset because it is the intellect. We receive knowledge almost by osmosis because it comes in as claircognizance. So the energy of the 11th house is also always connecting to our soul group, to the networking energy. It is science, it is expansion through understanding. We go to the 12th house, and that is expansion through integrating what we know of every other sign and feeling the connectedness of soul group. And so it really gets watery energy. It is a water sign, a water house, and then we bring it into our being. This is where we find it difficult to separate from other people. We are part of the collective. We are part of the soul group of the universe, pretty much. So it's where we find psychic awareness. We key into the intuition and to the soul of every other person that is around us. So it's where we merge. And as we go through the zodiac, all the way through it, we find parts of each sign that come together completely in the sign of Pisces, which make it the chameleon of the zodiac. I'm trying not to give too much information that can overwhelm you about each house, but all of these things, Neptune is the ruler of the 12th house, and all of these energies combine to make a complete picture. And as we go through a chart, we see the part and parcel of each segment, and we can infer those different areas of our lives through the different houses. As I said before, a little more practical energy for defining the zodiac is we have parts of each of these in our chart, even though we don't necessarily have a planet in every segment of the chart or in every part of the sky. We do ultimately have something transiting every part of the sky, and that can even expand out to the asteroids. But in a day-to-day sense and a quicker sense, we have the inner planets and the sun transiting through the different houses more quickly. So the moon goes through every 2.5 days through a sign. So we know that in the course of a month, we are going to have at least the moon in one part of the sky consistently, always in a house. So even though we don't in our charts necessarily have a planet there, we will be triggering that house by the moon. And so it makes it a very significant special area, a special entity in the sky, knowing that that is going to happen every month. Okay, so that kind of gives you the basic awareness of what each of the parts of the chart are. And then we have the planetary rulership, which I will again go over right now because I said some of the houses, but I didn't say all of the assigned rulerships. Aries is ruled by Mars. Taurus is ruled by an earth energy of Venus. Gemini is ruled by the air energy of Mercury. Cancer is ruled by the moon, water energy. Leo is fire, and it is the sun, obviously. Virgo is Mercury, earth. Libra is air, Venus. Scorpio is Pluto, water sign. Sagittarius is fire and ruled by the sign of the planet of Jupiter. Capricorn is Saturn, earth. Aquarius is Uranus, air. And finally, Neptune, water for Pisces. So that gives you kind of the totality of a chart, the basic understanding of how a chart is set up. So I hope that helps you in your quest to understand astrology a little bit more. So now for what's going on this week, I'm just going to go over the planets and where they're falling in the chart. And you'll see the chart probably over here. I probably should move over a little bit so the chart is easily placed. Okay, so this week we have moon in Taurus. We have the moon also transiting through Gemini over the weekend. We have Cancer early next week, all the way through Thursday. Then the moon enters Leo early in the day on Thursday. And then Friday continues to be Leo. Thursday, moon in Taurus. We've also got Uranus today on Thursday. Moon in Taurus conjuncting Uranus. That is a really interesting energy around the materiality. Again, like I said, Taurus rules the values, rules the body, rules retail. Interesting that the moon is joining up with Uranus. We're having a lot of shipping issues. Retail and shipping is underneath Taurus auspices. So that's going to be an emotional time. It's going to be a culmination time with the moon joining up with Uranus. We'll see a seeking of solutions in the material world around missing things on the shelves at the stores. There is an inconjunct to Mercury in Libra. There is an inconjunct or a difficult aspect between the moon Uranus and Taurus is in inconjunct or difficult aspect to another Venus ruled sign of Libra with Mercury. Mercury in Libra is about the idea. Again, Mercury just went direct this week. So we're going to see some energy really about what's going on with the shipping and how we look at it, how we balance out our connectedness between one entity and another. This can also translate to partners. It can translate to romance. It can translate to just about anything when there are two entities trying to cooperate. There's going to be a disconnect of some sort because we have an entity in an air Libra and two entities, moon Uranus in an earth Venus sign. So they're not talking in the same manner. They're not coming to conclusions in the same way. So it's going to be a frustrating energy today, but even when the moon moves out of Taurus this coming week and weekend, Uranus and Mercury are still in this energy for a few days. So look for it not to really ease up for about 3 days. So I would say through, let me see, Thursday, say the beginning of the week, it'll start to ease up a little bit as Mercury gets past that 13 degrees and then closer into an energy of aspect to Venus. So there's going to be actually a positive aspect between Venus and Mercury as Mercury gets farther along because it'll join up with a sextile to Venus this coming week, Venus and Sagittarius. So what does that mean? That means that we have the thought to do something and the means and desire to actually follow through with that action. And it will be a really great time of following through, making money, more positive energy coming in around housing. You know, housing is going crazy right now, and definitely Mercury and Libra We have the idea of cooperation, of a sale. Remember, Aries is the sale energy. It is Mars. Mars is in Libra right now for a few more days, and Mercury joining up or going closer to the Mars energy, which is also in cooperation with Venus, the desire to move along. Mars says, okay, I'm going to move along. Venus rules Libra. Mars in Libra is talking to Venus saying, yes, let's get on with it. Let's do this. Can be also expansion of finding people who will help you with your spiritual growth, a really wonderful cooperative energy around that. Okay, let's look at what else is going on. I'm just going to go through the chart and tell you, or the planetary guide. We've got a warring aspect Thursday, again, because of this inconjunct. We've also got an inconjunct going on from Moon Uranus conjunction to Venus and Sagittarius. Venus and Sagittarius wants to get on with it. Moon doesn't go very fast when it's in Taurus, and Uranus and Taurus now also a little bit slow, feet in the mud, a little bit of feet in the mud kind of feeling. Yeah, and Thursday evening, going to be some friction with how we take action associated with government and cooperation. That translates to the news stories. I've been reading what's going on in the news, and the news is frustration over some bills going through. Steve Bannon is finding that, Congress wants to take him to task for behaviors he's done, may not fulfill the way we want it to, or the way it should, who knows, should or want, desire or action. It's all about what's going to happen. And right now, news stories showing us a lot of friction between entities and not a lot of cooperation right now. And that's because Moon Uranus in negative aspect to Venus and negative aspect to Mercury. So we're going to see this disconnect between entities not getting along, not cooperating. Friday, our values are taken to task. And my planner has this note. I want to tell you what it is. It's in the daily planetary guide for 2021, October 22nd. Before the sun enters Scorpio, we have the moon. After the moon squares Jupiter, which is going to be 12:32 p.m. Eastern and 9:32 a.m. Pacific. Taurus is one of the 4 signs in which the void of course moon is a good thing, which is what's happening. Keep a steady pace during this productive period. So that actually happens from 4:35 p.m. through about 12:51 a.m. the next day. So it's a really productive, forceful time for that energy. And I just wanted to share that with you. Friday. Okay, sun enters Scorpio overnight, like I said, 9:51 p.m. Pacific and 12:51 a.m. Eastern time on the 23rd. Sun entering Scorpio. Now the sun answers to Pluto at late degrees of Capricorn, now moving direct. So when the sun goes into Scorpio, what happens? Means that now they're in cooperation, the sun and Pluto. And it also means that we are going to see some forward motion with government, with legalities, with what's been going on behind the scenes. The sun now has the ability to do something about it because it is very forceful in the answering to Pluto, and Pluto's in Capricorn, wrapping things up around legalities and the law. And so I see next week or even throughout the weekend, look for, again, major news stories coming out this weekend. Next week's going to be really productive with a sun in Scorpio. And Saturday could be a lot more emotional. And again, Scorpio is where we connect to partners, where we commit to partners. Going into Sunday, there is definitely a strong partner energy, but we have Moon in Gemini. Doesn't get along with the sun in Scorpio very much by sign, but Moon in Gemini, it wants to be chatty, it wants to find out information. And now that Mercury is going direct, you can bet that there will be a lot of bombshells dropped over the course of the weekend and into early next week, because Moon in Gemini, Moon enters Cancer at 5 p.m. on Monday, 2 p.m. Pacific. And then we have a moon trying to sun in Scorpio later in the evening on Monday. So the morning, or actually most of the day until 5, is going to be that contentious chatting and talking and dropping bombshells, friction from seeing things in two different ways, but not necessarily getting things done with the sun in Scorpio. But as the moon moves into Cancer, it is wanting more cooperation around home. There is a much more, I got earthy energy, which really is not per se what it is. It's very emotional, but it is more of a grounding or an emotional energy coming in that gets us out of that contentious Mars versus Gemini moon energies. The moon in Cancer is going to really make us want the structure, which tends to make Cancer a sign that is currently, with all the Pluto in Capricorn energy, acting out of practicality. So when the moon moves into Cancer, it wants to be more practical because it starts to really balance out the energy with Pluto, with the Capricorn energy. Because as long as Capricorn is strongly associated with Pluto, we are going to have this balancing out of the Cancer energy with Pluto. That means much more practical or much more literal energy comes in. So yes, the moon is emotional. Yes, that is supposedly a nurturing energy, but it gets channeled through that Pluto with the synergy energy. And so Cancer right now is kind of lit up for much more taking people to task and wanting things to be more strict. It's also got a T-square in the sky with Mars and the Sun in late Libra. So there is this friction going on and an energy that wants to wrap up the story around relationships, partnering, commitment, career versus home. It's three sections of the sky in cardinal, which is very much a push to go forward. And yet at the same time, wrapping up the old ideology and belief system around how that structure is supposed to be while moving forward to the new energy of air and not so much earth, water, but much more air, fire. All right, I'm going to just say we've got a lot of the financial break and freedom from family on Tuesday. We've got Family Day much more on Wednesday of this coming week, the 27th, with the moon in Cancer. A lot of friction energy coming in on that day. So it's going to be a bit tough, a bit emotional, and a little bit of contention coming in on Wednesday. Thursday, moon enters Leo early on. So that means that we are going to be much more driven towards our children, towards creativity and leadership, with a bit more friction because Leo doesn't get along with Scorpio per se, but they are very dramatic. So there's going to be more drama and creativity coming in on Thursday, which is the 28th of next week, coming in towards the end of the month, and the Halloween energy. It is a very creative, I want to say a very big cosplay time. Obviously, with Halloween coming in, Halloween parties, we're going to feel the need to let loose some of that steam. And again, as long as the sun is in Scorpio, it answers to Pluto. There's going to be a good month of friction around law, around government, and seeing things in a very deep, emotive sense. We're taking on the energy within our bodies, within our person. Don't forget that Scorpio rules the sex organs and reproductive organs. It's also the kidneys. So it means we can filter out some of what has been coming through our lives through our emotion. But health-wise, those are the areas of the body, the reproductive organs and the kidneys, that can take a hit during this time if we're not really looking at what we need to see with regard to our deeper emotional connection to children and to the structure and a belief system. Friday, we're going to see the day come in next week with a Uranus moon square between Taurus and Leo. So it is that kind of changing it up with the growth and the money and the values versus who's in charge, and are we able to really follow our heart with the freedom that we're seeking and the creative aspect. So yeah, Taurus and Leo are really difficult energy around value and the freedom to create and the freedom to play with money versus the practical side of having the money there and knowing that it's safe in the bank. So you're going to have some friction with that coming in next week. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap it up. That's a lot to digest. I hope you don't get too confused by the information I've given you. And take care. I'm going to throw the now chart up on Facebook under the Astro Energy page. So it's facebook.com/Astro Energy. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below if you're on YouTube. Thanks. Bye. I'm sorry, my computer is going to sleep. I have both computers.
Hi, this is Shelley. Thank you for joining us this week. To contact me for a private reading, go to angeliczodiac.com under the Readings tab. Background music was provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Music provided on show-by-show basis will be credited within the body of the show. For more info on my art, go to shelleyoverton.com. That's SHELLEYOVERTON.com. To purchase my ebook, Learn Astrology, you can find it at angeliczodiac.com, including discounts. Be sure to check back next week and subscribe through iTunes at Astro Energy Astrology Show.